Happy Monday, boys and girls.
Well, hey, y'all.
It's been a week. I'm so glad we could all make it, even Andrew.
I'm here. I am not particularly well rested, but I'm here.
We have a lot to dive into, a lot to talk about. Andrew somehow got off the plane in time.
Do you remember when Rachel got off the plane and Ross was so happy? That's a different kind of getting off the plane. Anyway, we've got a lot to talk about. Yesterday was Sunday.
And this is the morning after.
Welcome to the Morning After Ministry Show, a caffeine-fueled look back on the week and ministry that was.
It's great to see you. It's great to see you. Each and every Monday, Frank, Andrew, and I, we get together to talk the week in ministry that was.
Was it weird that you didn't have anybody with you doing church yesterday? I mean, like you had a congregation, but you didn't have Frank to be your buddy. You didn't have me to be, checking in on.
Frank was out. Our worship director was out.
I saw that in the pictures.
Andrew was okay.
I was here. I made it to church on time.
All right, let's get through this story because I didn't know, and I guess maybe I fell asleep a little early. I woke up on Sunday morning to text messages saying, I'm at the airport. And I'm like, no, you're not. It's Sunday morning. Can you just kind of fill us in? This could be worst case scenario for any preaching pastor. Like, is there a bigger nightmare?
It was wonderful and terrible. And we're in a series on prayer. So as I was sitting on the tarmac in Charlotte Airport at about 11:30 midnight-ish, knowing that my flight that was trying to leave for Tampa was waiting until the minute the lightning stopped to take off, my prayer was, God, I can't really be preaching on thy will be done tomorrow morning and being upset about not making a flight. So Saturday morning, I got the notification that my flight time from Little Rock had changed. I was at a denominational conference in Mississippi, which getting to there was a nightmare. Literally, I had an emergency.
It was in no man's land.
It was in no man's land, so it was 2 hours from the nearest airport.
It's really smart if you're planning a conference to be really far away from the airport.
Yeah.
That's a conversation.
That's a conversation for another time.
I'm saying it's really smart.
I would not have planned it that way. I'm glad I went. It was exciting and eye-opening, but getting there was a pain in the tuchus. So I flew into Little Rock because my in-laws are in Arkansas.
His denomination requires him to say tuchus, by the way.
That's not true.
I mean, possibly.
It was a pain in the tuchus.
So keep talking about the sitting in the lounges at the airport.
Well, Shirley's here.
Oh.
Shirley's presenting me with a gold star.
Andrew has officially been awarded with
awesome.
the You Shine Gold Star. This is a big deal.
Has Shirley been on the show before?
She is now. This is a big deal.
This is a big deal.
It's right here.
So on
shining bright.
Wednesday, I was flying in
Thank you for that.
to Little Rock, and I was asleep on the flight, and the guy next to me was a pilot from another airline, and he nudges me because we had making small talk, and he says, we're turning around. And I'm like, what? And the captain comes over and says, hey, everybody, this is the captain. We have a possible situation. We have what appears to be a fuel leak, and we are making an emergency landing in Greenville, which is great because my sister lives in Greenville. What I didn't realize is that after he made that announcement, we'd be on the ground in about 2 minutes after that. And we made a fairly rough landing at Greenville Airport with the fire trucks racing down the runway to get to us. It was something out of a Nicolas Cage movie. And then I spent 5 hours in Greenville. So then we went, conference is good, we do all the things. And on Saturday, because of the weather, Saturday night, they said, hey, your flight is leaving Little Rock later than you expected it to. Finally get on the plane in Little Rock, finally land, and it's raining, and there's lightning everywhere. So they say the whole airport is closed. And so long and the short of it is that I missed my connection to get from the Little Rock flight to the flight from Charlotte to Tampa that was supposed to get me home at 1 a.m.
Which, by the way, you're preaching on Sunday
And I'm preaching
morning.
Sunday, and all of the church's live stream gear is in my backpack with me because I was running. There was an annual meeting component to this conference.
You know what you could have done? You could have recorded the sermon live
I
from
thought about
wherever
it.
you are.
I thought about it. I thought
be live.
I was just showing people hey, here's how continuity cam works, and I had my wireless microphones with me. So I thought, am I gonna get into the corner of the airport and record my sermon and upload it to Dropbox?
Your Safety Harbor becomes a campus all of a sudden.
Yes.
Right.
You're disembodied figure being streamed in.
But so Wednesday morning before the emergency landing, I was texting you all saying, guys, this is why you need like a good travel credit card, because I was sending you guys pictures from the airport lounge of my delicious
amazing.
breakfast and whatnot. Boy, did that travel credit card in that airport lounge come in handy on Sunday morning, because when I didn't make my flight, they rebooked me to the 7 a.m. flight coming to Tampa, but the airport lounge opened at 5, so I was able to get in, and they have a shower in the airport lounge. So now I had to wear the same underwear 2 days in a row. That was an issue.
And I don't think you brought any hair care products.
I know the only hair care product that I have most days is Rogaine, Tim, and so this is what it looks like. So I took
I just thought the hair was looking.
My hair was extra
flashy on
floofy.
Sunday.
I don't know. It was a different shampoo. It was the premium shampoo and conditioner.
Maybe the water pressure wasn't what you were used to.
Maybe. So I took a shower at the airport. I had my breakfast. I upgraded to first class so
Wow.
that I could be the first one off the plane.
Wow.
Sometimes you have a justifiable expense, and when
High
it's
roller.
$70 to upgrade, and you don't have to wait those extra 10 minutes.
It's a big flex.
And then I also got the Uber that was connected to the flight time, so that was a few more dollars. So we literally got to the gate at 8:45. I was in the Uber.
No checked luggage.
No,
Good.
I was
Smart.
in the Uber by 8:55 and got
Church
to,
starts at 10.
Church starts at 10. I got to church at 9:20 with all of the live stream
I told my
gear.
sound guy he will not make it to Safety Harbor Community Church before 9:25.
I
And
got,
you beat it by 5 minutes.
I got here at 9:20.
Wow.
I had
Wow.
already done all of the restream and eCam settings when I was in the airport lounge at 5 in the morning.
Smart.
So as I was praying before going to bed on the floor of the airport, I said, God, just give me 2 hours of sleep on the floor. That's what I feel like I need to get through. So I had a sweatshirt on over my face to keep the light out of my eyes, but I could still breathe. And I got about 2.5 hours of sleep on the floor of the airport, woke up, took a shower, and got here. And also at one point when my wife was texting me, I said, I honestly think at this point, I would get more sleep if I stayed at the airport than if I came home. Because if I would have made it home, my car was parked at church.
Mm. So you're going to come by the church.
So I was going to have to come by the church anyway. So I would have come by the church,
Yeah.
set up all the live stream gear, and then tested everything, and then gone home, and then had to get up and come back here. And so by not having that option, I got here, I plugged everything in, and it worked.
Great question. CJ's wondering, did you also manage to get the Sunday count done too?
Of course.
Good. That's
course.
important. No one else is able to do that.
No,
you have to stand in the back of the room.
During the second song, because you got to give the late people time to get here.
I tell my people don't count till the sermon.
If
I
Andrew,
can't
serious.
count during the sermon.
You can't do that, but I have said do not
Also,
do that
we
count till the
we
sermon.
have kids in worship with us
You want the higher head count.
until the second song.
So you double
so-
count the kids.
No, we count. I count once.
if Andrew doesn't make it, there's no attendance that Sunday.
No one showed up.
No one knows.
No one knows how many shows. So Andrew, the moral of the story is what? Never, ever, ever book a flight on the way home on Saturday. Is that the moral of the story?
I guess
The
so.
moral of the story is
Or
leave your denomination.
Frank, no. The
But
moral
who
of the
holds
story.
a conference
I don't
like
know.
ministry conference that ends on a Saturday?
I have issue with that, and that is a very fair point. Like, how do you have
Guys, how many years have we been conferencing?
and a
Years.
lot?
Like 15. I've never had a conference end on a Saturday.
No.
Not even once.
I think a lot of it is because there's like the business meeting component to it. So a lot of the, what's the word? When you show up, what are those called? The people that are allowed to vote at those meetings.
Delegates?
There we go. A lot of the delegates are lay members from congregation.
Sure.
So from congregation. So I think they don't want them to have to take a day off work. But they're all retired people. I think there might have been one delegate under the age
And they
of.
want to roll that into an extended weekend as they're traveling to beautiful Bayou, Mississippi.
Mount Bayou, Mississippi.
Mount Bayou, Mississippi. Wow.
The Cleveland where we were staying was fine. Everything was great. The getting home was a problem. I think more so than don't book a flight on Saturday, it's don't book the last flight on Saturday. Because if you book the second to last flight on Saturday, you have another chance. And I had the last flight booked, and it was like the full sprinting through the airport.
Scary.
Plus, when you've worn a pair of jeans for a few days in a row, they get a bit loose. So I've got the backpack and the duffel bag, and I'm just mooning everybody as I'm running through the airport, trying to pull my pants up. I finally get there, and the TV says, flight. I can see the plane, but the door's shut, kind of thing.
Yep.
And I stop running, and I'm like, oh, because my ankles feel like the first day of soccer practice. I haven't used these muscles in however many months or years in my case.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think Tim has a plan for you.
he's going to send me his Beachbody plan to get my ankle muscles nice and strong.
But Andrew, we're such good friends. So Sunday morning when I was going through the text, it was 45 minutes before our 8 o'clock service started, and I started going through my contacts.
Like,
and I was
who can I have preach for Andrew?
Well, it was or me. Like, could I have someone preach second service for me so I can get down there to preach for you?
Could you have recorded first service, played that during second service?
And had I known, I could have recorded and actually done a shout out to Safety Harbor, knowing that we were helping you guys out. My first thought was obviously Frank, but Frank, you were at another church. I didn't know what time their service started, so I didn't think that was going to work.
I would have not admitted, because their service started at 10.
And then I didn't have my dad was my other thought, but he was flying back from California, so he wasn't back in time either.
I really think the best option, if you would have done it, would be to record. I mean, me recording in the airport would have been in series, but you could have recorded yourself and played that at Lakeview and been here, and then been back in time for Lakeview third service.
That was possibly the plan. Then I realized you were going to make it, hopefully prayerfully, and you did.
We did, and
it still gives me anxiety thinking about it, because I've had so many nightmares where my alarm doesn't go off, or I miss a Sunday for whatever reason, or I show up and the sermon's not written like it always is.
My thing
nightmares.
Is when I get here and I feel like I have lots of time on a Sunday morning, that's always the time that I forget to input slides or whatever. I'm like, and then it's 9:42 and I haven't done it yet.
I did forget.
And
my sound guy had to do it for me on Sunday, because I actually I thought I did it on Saturday, and I had men's prayer and then a meeting, and normally after men's prayer I do all the slides, and I forgot about the slides, so our sound guy actually helped me.
Slides, man. It's a thing.
City Lights Church says, I have a heart issue that is random. My biggest fear as the only pastor is that it would happen on a Sunday.
I
see. When you said I have a heart issue, I thought you meant that as one of those things you would say at camp, like you've got a heart issue. And now I understand what you're saying. Like the heart issue would flare up on a Sunday.
The pastor of City Lights Church,
not a sin issue,
their
heart
issue. Could stop working on a Sunday.
That would be horrible.
It'd be awful.
I mean, your heart should. I hope your heart never.
Hey, if you're a doctor
working.
in the Scranton, PA area, we've got a great church. If you're a heart doctor, even better.
If you had a pacemaker in Scranton, you could have an electric heart in the Electric City. Think of that.
So good. This is why the people come to the show. This is the content. Hey, Frank, we mentioned this already. You and I haven't chatted yet. How was Sunday? You preached at another church not far, Tampa area.
Seminole Heights.
Yeah.
Love it. How'd it go?
It was great. Yeah. This is, we actually had the lead pastor at the Partly Pastoring Conference this past year. He spoke, and
he absolutely crushed it, by the way.
Was the opening night speaker.
He was my favorite speaker.
Yeah, Pastor Daryl Williamson.
So good.
It's for the record, not Urban D.
Not Urban.
I love Urban D.
It was very confusing to me.
No,
yeah, Urban D is another pastor in the area.
He was great too.
But no, Urban D stands for Urban Disciple.
Yeah, I realized that, but I was very confused for a few hours there.
Pastor Daryl is a pastor at Living Faith Bible Fellowship. He also is on the board of directors for the Gospel Coalition. So if you ever go and watch those cool black and white videos of people sitting around a table talking, he shows up sometimes. So that's really cool.
I've never been invited.
He's also the pastor of a good friend of ours named KB. He a fellow graduate from Trinity College with me. And so I've known that church and been friends with those guys and the many people at that church for literally over a decade. And they asked me to come out and preach, and it was an opportunity for me to bring pulpit supply, but also kind of talk about the church plant. And it's really cool. It's definitely one of those churches. When we talk about being a multi-ethnic church, this is truly a multi-ethnic church where majority of the people in the congregation are people of color, and it is very diverse. The worship is diverse. It's also kind of like a balance between being Baptistic, because they're a Converge and a Southern Baptist church, but they also have some liturgy in there. Like they have a call to worship, they have a reading of the scriptures moment, and it's just one of the coolest experiences. I love.
Is that your definition of liturgical?
Having liturgy in the church?
No, but a call to worship and a reading of scripture. That's
pretty standard.
That's church.
I was trying to give a summary, but okay whatever. There were elements that were pretty structured in their service.
There you go.
That I would say a lot of evangelical
Was it
churches,
like a responsive call to worship?
there was a responsive
Okay.
call to worship.
See, we do a call to worship every week that's just like, this is not the sermon. Here's a 2-verse thing that Andrew does at the beginning
No.
that says why we are worshiping.
There's someone
Okay.
there, and
So
they're
there's
like,
a responsive
there
call
is
to
a
worship.
response back
Okay.
and forth. It's
Okay.
like it's a whole thing, and then
Yep.
there's like a.
That's liturgical.
It's pretty cool, but it's not. It doesn't
Or it's a
feel like
responsive reading.
it feels
Yeah.
like the most like low church,
High church
liturgical-
element.
Does that make sense? Like
Yes.
like yeah, where like true low church like will do like a call to worship, but they won't like say it. Does that make sense?
Right.
Anyways, it was really fun. Got to see a lot of old friends, and yeah, I mean it was it's also one of those churches where people talk to you during the sermon, and that is I would have,
Interesting.
even if you
Is there a live stream?
yeah, there's live stream. Even if you like are not part of a congregation where they like are like giving you feedback in the middle of the sermon, it always feels good as a pastor. When you're like talking and people say amen, it's like, oh, they're clocking here. Or like at some churches, you're just like, I hope they're getting it. Like I hope they understand it. So it was a great
So
time.
Frank, you're saying that when you're preaching at Lakeview, Zoe Miller doesn't give you the amen?
Zoe Miller, always Zoe.
Not Zoe. Steve certainly will.
Yeah, your
The-
dad.
The,
Your dad.
the
talks to me all
last
the time.
service that I was at Lakeview, Zoe was the one chiming in. Has she grown out of that stage of life where she was trying to one up Grandpa? Or
That was probably a one-off for her.
it was great.
That's really funny.
It made me laugh.
CJ with the
real
great
hard.
idea. How did we not think of this? Just live stream Lakeview at Safety Harbor.
That
I
could-
could have literally done an entire plug of, hey, we've got another church joining us today.
How cool would that have been?
We could have done that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right, if Andrew, if you're ever stuck on a plane,
you would have had to coordinate with the in-ears. All right, we're going live in Safety Harbor in 5,
Could have done it.
4.
Could have done it.
Could have.
Tim could have finally fulfilled his lifelong dream of being a multi-site,
That is not a dream.
simultaneous.
Speaking of nightmares,
That's his dream, guys. Don't.
Andrew, I did something that I don't do often, and I actually haven't done this in a while. But usually, it was an annual thing where about once a year I would help my dad his business.
I help my dad all the time.
They run a big conference, and they help out at this major conference. He's in the funeral and cemetery industry, and they do a national funeral and cemetery conference every
National
year.
Dig Day. Everybody grabs a shovel. They start digging graves.
It's a big one, thousands of people.
It's a lot of dead
And
people.
They have a production size. They do a whole
Oh.
night. It's a dinner. They do like opening videos and transition videos and people on stage and background graphics.
So they do a church service.
Similar. They also want it filmed and then cut back to like a
Highlight
trailer
reel.
or a highlight reel or a short film.
Last year
Yeah.
at DEF CON 25.
They kind of try to use it as a plug for the next year. So each year, the production company that I partner with from time to time, we get flown out to wherever this convention is for 2 or 3 days to do this little side gig. What's fun is this is like the one thing a year that we do that I know, hey, whatever I get paid for this is our extra family trip. So this year, we went to Epic
This year you
Universe.
had the money spent before you left.
Yeah.
We spent the money on Monday.
Dave
I
Ramsey
left
loves
on-
this.
I left on Tuesday. We went to Epic Universe, which if you don't live in the state of Florida or you don't live in the United States, it's the newest theme park on Earth. It's opening in a couple of weeks. We scored some preview tickets. It's the most immersive, glorious theme park you've ever been to. So then I ventured off to Las Vegas, the fabulous
Playground
lights,
of sin.
the playground of sin. Not a whole lot to do when you're helping out with a funeral
Las
conference.
Vegas and Gomorrah.
That's the one. Weird not having you guys there with me to hang out and to party. So wasn't a whole lot of
When you say
hanging out or
party in
partying.
Vegas, you need to specify that the only partying we've ever done in Vegas has been in the airport together.
That's true.
The only thing we would do in Vegas together is like go see a magic show.
Which
I love
didn't
magic.
get to see. I
But-
did go to the Sphere.
The Sphere's crazy.
The one fun thing I did outside the conference was the Sphere, which was the craziest experience ever. Think Soarin', but everything Soarin' should be.
But the Eiffel Tower's not bent.
Exactly. And in on an 18K screen in front of you.
It's a lot of
18K.
Ks.
It's a lot of Ks. Had
lot of
a little
Ks.
bit of fun. It was mostly work. Missed my fam. Came back like you way too late at night just to jump back into everything because then you have to get caught up with everything.
But you came back Friday night?
Thursday night.
Thursday night. Oh.
Thursday night got in like 1 a.m. ish, and then jumped back into all things
Real
dad,
life.
husband, pastor, and right into Lakeview land on Sunday, which didn't have my boy Frank by my side. I missed him greatly. We all did, Frankie, but ended up being a really good Sunday, solid Sunday. Still walking through 1 Corinthians. Got a couple of weeks left. We'll be finishing it up at the end of June. But we're getting to the fun parts. You know what I mean? Like where it can get a little dicey. You can go either way. You just kind of have to lean into, hey, this has been debated a lot. We're not going to solve this right now. Here's what the text says. Here's where I lean. Here's where Frank leans. Here's where you might lean. But we're going to let the Holy Spirit do what he's going to do. And that's been a lot of these last few weeks, which that lends itself well to my style of preaching, where I don't really care if you agree with me, just so long as we have unity around the main things. And that's kind of been the focus.
I didn't tell you because you were Epic University last Monday when Frank and I were recording, but at 10:30, like I looked down on my watch and I had a text right before I went up to preach last Sunday, and it was a friend of mine who's been worshiping at Lakeview for the past several months, and it said, "Hey, just curious, where do you land? Are you a continuationist or a cessationist?"
Wow. And you're like, those are big words.
And I thought,
like you went to a Tim sermon.
Well, I thought, I know where they are this morning at Lakeview, because we had talked about who was preaching what weeks and stuff. And so I just thought that was really funny that I've got my peeps at Lakeview that are saying, "Oh, hey, what about you? Where are you at?
Yeah, Andrew, where
are you a heretic like Frank?" That's not what they said. I'm joking.
As a Dallas seminary grad, I'm surprised.
Again, and
you weren't a heretic.
Well,
like me.
and I said, Frank gives me so much crap about so many things in life, but for the person to say that he is a cessationist to then tease me about being a dispensationalist all the time doesn't seem to theologically make a lot of sense. But, again, when you're low church,
I'm an onion. I got a lot of layers.
When you're low church non-liturgical, you can just, commandeer terms for yourself, I guess.
Wow.
It's like, I'm a Calvinist because I believe in the sovereignty of God. Okay, well, what about...
I'm a Calvinist.
Or I'm reformed based on one point.
Because I like to quote Piper. That's all.
Exactly.
Accurate.
All right, whatever. This is Tease Frank Day.
I love you, Frank.
Dude, I've only been to the Vegas airport. Like, I want to...
You have not been to the Las Vegas Strip, ever?
I used to think, and this could have been my legalism in
Las
the past.
Vegas and Gomorrah.
I thought, if I step foot into Vegas,
you turn into a pillar of salt.
My sanctification goes backwards. But
so about 15 years ago, they actually made a push for a lot of family-friendly attractions. So there's a ton of.
I've actually heard of a lot of cool things. I think honestly, I'm being very serious. I think magic is the coolest thing ever.
It is.
I would totally go to a magic show. Also, WrestleMania was there this year, and I would have totally.
Was it at Allegiant Stadium?
It was at Allegiant Stadium,
which Mandalay Bay is next door. That's where I stay. I can see it from the hotel room.
Freshman year roommate works for the Department of Energy, and he and his family are out in Vegas, and they're about as indie fundy as you can get.
Crazy. Living
in Vegas and absolutely loving it, and it blows my mind constantly. I'm like, oh, all right. But when you work for the Department of Energy and the Hoover Dam is there,
should we
kind of controls energy for?
Should we host a privately pastoring conference in Vegas
live from Mandalay Bay?
PPCon Vegas 2026.
Yeah, we'll call it privately pastoring conference.
PPCon
Vegas in 2026. Let's do it.
I'm sure they could give us a great. Could you imagine turning in receipts coming back?
No.
From hey, church secretary. Here are all of my receipts from my conference in Vegas.
Honestly, it sounds like a cover-up to do bad stuff. like, why are you using the church card to go to Vegas? And what is this? And why is it abbreviated to PPCon? There's so many questions I have.
Tim and I worked at a church where a pastor would only book conferences where there was a marathon running because he was a runner. So he would use the church conference as the cover to run his marathon.
This is all very inappropriate use of money.
Then he got caught.
And then he got caught and got fired because he wasn't going to the conferences.
He was skipping the conferences.
It was like the time that
marathons.
John Locke went to Australia for that conference when very really similar. He was just trying to go on a walkabout, and he was like, "Don't tell me what I can't do."
You can't tell John what he can't do.
And then he got back and he got fired from the box company. That was bad.
Every time. One thing I loved about being a part of DYM is that it would give me a reason
to go to Southern California.
Yeah.
It
was like the great. I've booked so many vacations around those. I'm going to go to Disneyland. I'm going to go whatever.
But it's funny because the two cities in the country that have the most hotel rooms are Orlando and Vegas.
Yeah.
And Orlando now hosts all of the ministry conferences, but no one's like, hey, we should host a ministry conference in Vegas. You could probably get nicer ballrooms and cheaper hotels there than anywhere else.
Yeah, for sure.
For 400 pastors, 500 pastors coming in, but Legionnaires not like, hey, do you know where we should go? Or we should bring them all to Vegas.
Yeah.
When I told my kids
9 marks Vegas,
Daddy has to now pay for this epic day that you just had, and I have to go to Vegas to do it. They didn't realize I was going to Papa's
They
conference.
thought you were going to
and one of my
put
kids
some money on the
responded, was
roulette wheel.
You're gonna go gamble to pay for this vacation? I said, no, I didn't push a single
That's
button
funny that your kid's not that.
or pull a handle on a slot machine or place any
Tim's
bids.
gonna
on
play
the
craps
blackjack
so he
table.
can get fast passes.
I mean, all the lights were very shiny. I feel like all of my arcade work done as a young boy trained me for Vegas.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't push any buttons in Vegas, I felt like I was at an arcade again, and I needed to go push
I
buttons.
mean, we used to go to this arcade when we were in Arkansas that had one of the quarter pusher machines.
yeah, I love those.
And my kids would go through all of their quarters, and Liam, my second one, would end up like quadrupling his quarters, and the other three would lose. I'm like,
everything.
oh, so Liam just got all of their quarters. Cool. But it wasn't like at Chuck E. Cheese you play those and you get tickets. This one, like, you got actual money for it. And my boys were like, Dad, can we go to the gambling arcade again? That was really fun. I just don't know that.
The only money I have ever gambled in my life is like the $20 bill my dad gave me the first time I went to Vegas.
Well,
I just
My
don't-
dad tries to keep me from sin, but whatever. You can have your own relationship with your dad.
I will say
It's fine.
the one thing that's interesting about Vegas is the Vegas airport has gambling stuff in the airport.
Oh, every 5 feet.
Yes,
It's crazy.
everywhere.
I
weird.
remember one time I had a layover and I saw a person get off the plane.
How much money did you make?
And I didn't gamble. I'm scared to gamble. I gambled on a
too.
cruise one time and I'm like, this is a waste of time. A guy ran off
Anything
his,
that's addicting, I'm like, I know how my brain works.
Me too.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna judge it. I don't want to say something is or isn't a sin. I just know myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He ran off the plane and ran to the slots and played it. And then he lost and then he went to his next flight. And I was
Erica,
like,
this is a true story. This is why the company does repeat events there. She says, have the conference there at least once, and you'll get comped on future rooms and events, which is why every 3 years they have the conference there. 'cause you get
PPCon
these-
26,
I mean,
PPCon 28
You could keep doing
on the Vegas Strip. We could reach out to so many West Coast pastors.
it. We could.
hey, you guys know what today is?
I do.
Cinco de Mayo.
Taco Day.
It's both a fun day and also maybe a painful memory.
Well, let's talk about the fun side of it.
Tacos,
Tacos,
pinatas.
Yeah.
piñatas,
And one of the best videos
maybe the greatest.
that Tim and I have ever filmed with undeniably one of our most famous friends.
They're so much fun.
Yeah.
People often ask, how do you know those guys? To which I always reply, we've known them forever. Like,
Yeah.
we've been buying Sunday Cool merch since the early days of youth ministry.
My sister-in-law, who is not a church person, lives in Arkansas and watches Ninjas Are Butterflies every week, and had no idea that I knew that. Like, she was like, says, "Oh, there's this podcast that I listen to," and then I was, you know, that I've known those guys for 7 years, and it gave me instant cred.
If you haven't seen the video, we'll link it in the show notes. Well, we can put a comment. We can put a comment in there.
Yeah, I'll do it. I got it.
You're going to want to see it. It's the ultimate spicy chip challenge. It was
I
glorious.
was so glad to be on the sidelines and not participating.
Andrew,
in that.
you were in the room.
I was in the room,
You were invited to partake.
and I said, "I think Tim wants to."
You did kind of like.
I was
shove-
not interested in that one little bit.
Had my wife been there, she would not have allowed it because I had a bit of a reputation growing up in the youth group as the kid who couldn't stomach anything. So I would often get pushed, and I grew up in the era of gross youth group games. Like, that's what you did. Like, you did.
I
did a
miss gross
game.
youth group games.
I think they should still exist, but I would throw up at youth group once a month. Like, that was what I was known for. I have a very weak stomach. I can't handle a lot of things, so I would just routinely hurl at youth group. So when I got thrust into the one chip challenge, my prayer was that I would avoid that one spicy chip.
Do you remember when Frank kept asking for a cookie, and they were like, "What cookie are you talking about?"
I didn't understand what were the game mechanics,
Your
but
brain just got so fried that all you could think was cookie.
oh, it's-
City Light says that video is how I was introduced to practically.
That's so
pastoring.
funny.
sick. It's awesome.
That's crazy.
Okay,
That's
so yeah, we went down to Sunday Cool. This is before Ninjas and Butterflies even started.
They didn't even exist yet.
Yeah, they were just doing like children's curriculum or youth ministry curriculum, as well as like making funny videos to promote the t-shirt company. And we were like, be a fun thing to like connect with them. And then they did these spicy challenges. I don't think I knew going into it that we were going to do a spicy challenge.
I didn't know. I thought we were going to just hang out with them.
Yeah.
Like, watch a broadcast.
And we
of
went
them.
to lunch, and Josh was like, "Nah, I'm not going to eat before this." And we're like, "He's not eating lunch? That's so weird."
I thought that was weird too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Turns out
We had
made
no
sense.
idea what was coming.
So we did and what's funny is if you watch the video, it showed they put like a little template of like where the spicy chips are, and all the spicy chips were in front of me, and Tim and Josh had all the non-spicy chips. So I'm like, we didn't know, and I'm only
We had
going
no
in the
idea.
middle, and I'm dying because all 4 chips were the worst. And Tim was good until like the last 2 or whatever.
I got the last 2, and everything went south. Like it was hell in my mouth and in my stomach and on my lips. I couldn't breathe. I think we started hallucinating at one point.
I was. The video is edited so well and so funny.
It really
like
is.
It makes it very like I don't know if it heightens it.
Is it Andrew who's the video editor? Or was he
Andy's the one that was probably editing it.
No, not Andy, but I think there's the other.
Oh, Andrew. Yeah, he was here too.
I don't know if he
I don't
was
know who
working
edits
for them yet, but but it's shot. I mean, their space looks great and all that stuff, but it was shot well, but edited so funny. Yeah.
So
it was literally the spiciest and most painful. Like everything you see in that video, we're not exaggerating.
It's haunting
how
to think
painful
about.
it was.
It is haunting.
But it led to something that, as fun and funny as that was, it led to something that was very like I think Stephanie's in the comments. I think like poor woman has so many traumas in her life. This was probably one of the biggest ones.
I get home and I'm texting you guys like my stomach's not quite back yet. I just assumed this is gonna mess my gut up for a couple days.
Do you think it lowered your immune system?
100%.
Maybe.
Okay.
100%. So I knew I wasn't quite right. Saturday comes along and I'm texting another buddy of mine. I was like, I don't know if I can preach tomorrow, but I think I can. So I wake up on Sunday and I am an absolute wreck. I knew something wasn't right, but there's 2 services we have to preach. I get to church early. I fall asleep before first service. I wake up in the second song, rush over, preach, come back to, we don't have like a green room. So this was like kids ministry space. I lay down, I think on the floor in the kids ministry room, fall asleep again before second service, wake up right before, it's like someone has to come in and wake me up. Then I go out, preach, and come back, and I'm like, this is not good. On my way to the doctor, I realized I couldn't smell anything. I couldn't taste anything. Got diagnosed with COVID on that Sunday. So Cinco de Mayo that year was on a Wednesday. By Sunday, I had COVID. And by Tuesday night, I was rushed to the ER and I couldn't breathe. Like it was painful to breathe. It was getting worse and worse. And by like 3 or 4 in the morning, I was texting Steph because the nurses were coming in and they were saying, how close to the ventilator is he? And so they were calling the floor with the ventilator saying he might be close because my oxygen levels were dangerously low. Meanwhile, Andrew's texting me, still making fun of me at this point.
Before, so this is May of 2021.
Yes.
I want to say that like vaccines became like available to the general public in April of 2021.
Sounds right.
So maybe February, but so like within 6 or 8 weeks before that, and I was driving past one of the sites that was doing vaccines. A friend of mine was the teacher at so someone said, "Hey, Andrew, this place is like, it's a quarter mile from here and there's no wait. So you could go." And I was literally driving when I got that text. I was like, "Oh, okay." So I pulled in, out. It was great. And I got vaccinated in 10 minutes. And I said something to Tim, and I'm not going to tell you what he said to me because we have a unique political climate.
I remember what I said. Okay,
and he said something divisive.
It was funny
hurtful.
at the time.
It was funny, but he made fun of me for getting vaccinated.
I did.
So then naturally...
Vaccinated shame you.
I did. I shamed him.
Mm-hmm. And so...
You muted that.
And so, I just don't want to be,
It sounds like you cussed or something.
No, but we have...
I mean, he practically did.
But we have...
Oh my goodness.
Listen, there's enough people on different spectrums in
Okay,
our churches that I don't want to...
Let's go.
And so, I when he first got COVID, I was making fun of him for having COVID. Hey, do you remember how mean you were to me
I
when
had
I got
a long
vaccinated?
list of text messages of you mocking me.
And so I was like, man, this is comedy gold. And so they've got like 3 days of just me saying horrible things to Tim about having COVID. And then he's in the hospital and I'm like, ha ha ha, you're such an idiot. My shot took 10 minutes and you've been in the hospital for 2 days. And then he's like hours before he replies and the words are jumbled and I'm like, oh boy. And so I'm legitimately like, is he going to be okay? And then does the ventilator start? And then Steph is like sending me updates on his behalf because he can't text right now. And I'm thinking, if Tim dies and Stephanie goes through his phone,
so bad.
the only scandalous thing she's going to find because Tim loves Jesus, except for when he's in Vegas.
Wow.
The only thing that is going to cause issue when Stephanie goes through his phone is how awful I've been to him the past several days. She's not going to let me do his funeral because
You've been banned from my funeral.
I'm going to be banned from my best buddy's funeral. And so I'm like, do I? And this is still spring of 2021. So even as a pastor, you can't get into the hospital to visit people at this point. So I'm like trying to figure out if I need to put on my
It was a lonely few days.
I need to figure out if I would have slept so well. I need to figure out if I got to get my Kim Possible suit on to, like, you know, somehow rappel into the hospital room to steal.
I think I binge watched The Dark Side of Wrestling for like three days. It felt like.
Well, see, and then I got it. That was May. I got it in August, September when the Delta variant. Remember when that was part of our vernacular? Do. And it was like the worst 3 days of my life.
Stephanie says, I saw everything. Super funny. He deserved it.
I
absolutely
never felt closer to you than I do right now,
I
Steph.
absolutely deserved it. Did make it out.
They wrote yum on my Starbucks cup, yes. And it was quite yummy.
Made it out of the hospital. It is now a fun story to look back on, but I mean, still slightly traumatizing.
I remember our group text.
Yeah.
I mean, you got intubated, right? Like it was
close.
It was you didn't get intubated?
Not. It was right there. It was like they came in, they said, okay, if the oxygen levels don't come up at all in the next hour, we're switching floors, you're going to the ventilator. And then it was at that time where the oxygen level came back.
They didn't intubate him, but they did give him an enema.
You just wanted to say that.
I did.
We're going to get kicked off at first.
I mean, like you were. I mean, I remember in Milwaukee, and people were like, whether they were like COVID deniers or whatever, and I'm like, I actually know someone really close to me
who's like young and healthy.
Yeah, who's like on the verge of dying here. And I honestly didn't until this year connected to our Spicy Chip Challenge. Like,
I told the guys. Like, I told like
I thought
it was a result of that trip.
I thought you got COVID. I mean, to be fair, if you remember the drive,
I do.
We were in parts of the country.
We were
in.
It was on that trip.
Let's just say
you could hear banjos.
Let's just say no one out there got vaccinated.
Let's just say that no one would have been wearing the sticker Tim thought that I got with my vaccination where we were.
Anyways, all that to say is that video has given Tim and I so much clout with all kinds of people.
Really street cred.
Especially 12-year-olds.
Yeah, but not even.
Also those who love a good conspiracy theory.
Yeah, that podcast, I mean, people are like, that's so cool. And then and then it's like really a funny video, but also it's tied to something very traumatic in Tim and Stephanie's life.
And here we are 4 years later.
Still alive, upright.
In the words of
more
Sir Elton
testosterone
John,
than ever. That's
he's
good.
still standing.
Hey, happy Cinco de Mayo. I feel like we need to go celebrate.
We should get tacos today.
Poblanos?
Let's do it.
I'm so mad at you guys. I can't go to lunch today because I've got a stupid kid with a stupid orthodontist appointment.
Does Melissa watch this?
He's not stupid.
No, she has a job, Frank.
Oh.
My wife is teaching right now 2 blocks that way. She's doing the Lord's work, and I don't get a taco.
We'll save you some cheese.
You guys are going to put cheese on the practical pastoring card?
Queso.
I love white
cheese.
queso.
Well,
we're going to go celebrate.
Well, hey, happy Cinco de Mayo, everybody. I hope you don't get COVID. I have nothing else.
That's really all you got.
It's been 5 years since COVID.
All right, we'll end on that. Jimmy, let's get some tacos. All right, guys.
Anybody wants to meet them? They're going to be at Poblano's on McMullen Booth and Enterprise.
If you show up, we'll buy it. Said it out loud.
I'm never giving Frank the practically pastoring card again if you keep saying things like this.
See you guys later.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Miss you already.